The story begins with our protagonist, Kanguji Yutaka, and he has an addiction. And he's addicted to things some people might even say are worse than gambling. He's addicted to gacha games and simping while getting hard-ons over fictional 2D characters. Something I just really can't relate to because Full Moon Girl Gooner Brainrot is pulling more wallets than actual relationships ever could. His dad is a famous businessman who escaped the Matrix and installed the infinite money glitch into his life. So, our boy casually gets 200,000 in monthly allowances. However, our boy gets flashbacks to every smart, brilliant 21st century TikTok finance guru who keeps preaching to others about saving money while being professionally unemployed themselves. But he says, fuck it, who needs to save money when you can blow it all on hot 2D girls and cute voice actresses? Because apparently saving for the future is just a conspiracy theory invented by poor people who don't understand the dopamine hit of a late-night impulse buy. Kanguji is a die-hard fan of a female voice actress named Konami Sakurako, and whenever he thinks about her, he ends up buying her merch, just to ejaculate all over the place like he's a busted fire hydrant. Now, just like Uncle Haven said, with great simping comes great responsibility. But when anyone come in front of him sees him as a piece of trash floating around the school's hallways, because our boy's unholy hobbies became common knowledge across the entire school. Kanguji come out from the bathroom after flushing millions of liquid babies, and our boy is happy since he keeping the Japan economy propped up by supporting the companies by spend his money on his idol. When he takes a step, our boy hears the sound of his greatest threat of all time, real-life women. Hinata Rino is the popular girl in his class and the center of the class's cheerful friend group. But Kanguji hates her because of how loud and optimistic she always is. He enters the classroom and sees her sitting on his desk, and now comes the second threat. He has to talk to her and asks her to move. Our boy walks up with full confidence, his chest puffed out like an absolute alpha male. But the moment she turns around, he instantly folds like origami. His lips are sealed as he sees how cute she looks, and her other friends get ready to step on him. But he lets her know that she's sitting at his desk. Hinata quickly gets up and apologizes. Before she leaves, she tells him that he doesn't have to be so afraid of her and asks him to be more straight shot with her. Kanguji gets angry at her for looking down on him, and Hinata goes on to talk to her classmates about things most guys have little to zero clue about. It's something about get ready with me Instagram trend videos, hair care, nails, and accessories. Her classmates comment that she must be pretty caked up. And no, I'm not talking about the cake down below. I'm talking about her wallet. Since she has so many accessories to switch between every day, Kanguji realizes that that's the stuff normal folk would spend their money for, while he spends money on weird stuff nobody understands, so he feels like he can never truly connect with them. School is over, and Kanguji receives a call from his dad. He picks up the call and asks about the stock he bought, since his dad said that if it succeeds, his allowance will go up. However, his dad sits him down and lets him know that they're currently in deeper shit than the room that most Redditors dwell in. He reveals that he has made a massive mistake and got scammed like an absolute idiot after following YouTube gurus giving Telegram tips and investing an ungodly amount of money into Bored Ape NFTs and crypto coins. He also just sold their family home, and now we are back in the Matrix. Our boy's face drops, and his dad continues explaining that their main source of income has hit a slump. Kanguji then asks his dad about the deserted island resort they bought from Mr. Beast. His dad reveals that no one is renting the place because there are too many snakes, and now he's hundreds of millions of yen in debt. The sky starts falling as the universe around our boy collapses, and he realizes that he won't be able to simp for his favorite voice actress anymore. His dad then lets him know that, for now, he's going to have to go into hiding for a while, and hopefully the Yakuza won't find him and cut his dick off and sell it to pay off his debt. Our boy starts freaking out since, just a few hours ago, he was still playing gacha games, and now he's suddenly homeless. However, his dad lets him know that there's a villa where he and his mom used to live, and he sends him the address. As for living expenses, his dad expects him to handle all of that by himself, since he has been receiving 200,000 yen every month, and man, he could not have been more wrong. His dad starts having a mental breakdown and apologizes for everything. He explains that, back in the day, he also didn't know how to save money, and that's one of the reasons his mom walked out on him. He calls himself a failure and says, "Good luck, bro, and peace out." Our boy is left in a state of shock since everything collapses on him so damn fast that for a second, he thinks maybe his dad just wanted a reason to leave him. He checks his bank account, and it's looking just like mine and yours, but instead of worrying about himself, he starts freaking out because he won't be able to simp for Konami anymore. He arrives at the so-called villa, and our boy starts losing it. because when he heard the word villa, he thought it was going to look like something straight out of Dubai, but that's clearly not the case. He starts yelling in anger, and it startles a girl nearby. The girl drops all her groceries onto the ground, and our boy starts helping her. The girl realizes it's Kanguji from her class, and he realizes that it's Hinata. Hinata asks him to help carry her groceries into her house, which is in the same flat as his. He walks in, and Hinata reveals that the girl is her little sister, Miko. She then tells him to just place the stuff over there, and while our boy is doing that, Hinata thanks him for helping her and pats Kanguji's hand. Our boy instantly pulls his hand back like he's a pastor who just made physical contact with a succubus. He starts getting nervous and quickly runs into her bathroom to check if he actually came from the physical touch of a woman. He starts twitching like he's being possessed since his downfall hits him to the core, and he starts thinking he'll never make a comeback, just like my viewers. So he tries to calm himself down and push those thoughts away, since there's no way a gloomy guy like him can be with a cheerful girl like her. He turns on the water and tries to convince himself that he could never like someone like Hinata, but while he keeps pumping way too much soap, Hinata suddenly bursts through the door and tells him not to turn the faucet up so high. She then grabs his hand and tells him that a single pump of soap is enough, and she washes both his and her hands together, and our boy damn near climaxed from this. Hinata then explains that the supermarket had some insanely good bargain deals today, so she went full survival mode mom and stocked up on a bunch of stuff to save money, while our boy is dumping all the soap and water down the drain like his father's the one paying for it. Kanguji lets her know that she puts housewives and even Saitama to shame with how insanely hard she tries to save money on living expenses. She starts blushing and turns away from him before telling him to never mention at school that she's living that budget life grind and really enjoys a good bargain day. Our boy promises to keep it a secret, but then she kicks him out, and Kanguji reveals that he actually lives right above her. Hinata gets shocked since the room above is like a whole Disney castle by her standards. Kanguji then explains his situation to her, and she says that sucks, but she's still jealous of him, since she lives in a way smaller place and she's living with 5 people, and she doesn't even have her own room. Suddenly, Kanguji's alarm goes off, and he quickly realizes that today's the day reservations open for Konami's Thanksgiving event. He quickly gets it done and starts getting excited to see her at the venue. Right then, he snaps back to reality and realizes that he doesn't have money like that anymore. Hinata starts laughing since he's got to be pretty stacked to be an otaku. Kanguji realizes that the people around him might actually be right, so he looks at his phone and starts thinking about canceling the reservation. Our boy starts panicking and he yells at Hinata, assuming she probably thinks just like everyone else, that he's an idiot for wasting money simping when he doesn't even have enough money for himself, which is honestly true. But Hinata says she doesn't think like that at all. Kanguji gets surprised hearing this, and Hinata says it isn't wrong to spend money on something you like, since she does the same thing with her clothes and makeup. People on the internet also tell her all the time that it's a big waste of money to spend on something so little, but it makes her happy. And besides, she's using the money she earned herself, whether it be from her ad revenue or part-time job. She tells him that it isn't about being an otaku or not, but it's about spending money on what you like and managing them properly. Otherwise, you'll end up like most lottery winners. Kanguji has finally been enlightened and realizes that they both spend money, but the difference between him and her is that she's on that grind to make her money, while he himself is a spoiled brat who uses his dad's money. Our boy thinks she's amazing and requests something from her. He gets on his knees and asks her to teach him how to save up money. Hinata gets surprised and thinks about it for a little, and she says, "I gotcha, fam, no worries," but she lets him know that she'll be hella strict. Our boy asks what he should do first, but suddenly she pins him against the wall and asks if he wants to live together with her. Kanguji starts blushing and sweating after hearing this, and she says she's always wanted to try rooming with someone, so it's fine if he lets her use one of the rooms there. Our boy immediately refuses, and she gets shocked to hear this. But then she explains with a blushing face that it's the ultimate infinite money-saving glitch if they live together and split the living expenses. She gets really close to him while breathing heavily and sweating, which causes our boy to pop a boner like nothing he's ever experienced before. Bro is hard as a diamond. She then tells him that if she pays to rent a room, then he'll have enough money for his voice actress event. Kanguji instantly agrees, since simping is his #1 priority. As she heads out, she tells him she'll bring all her stuff over tomorrow. The next morning, Kanguji waits for her outside her house, and Hinata pulls up on a bike, telling him it's going to take about an hour by bike to get to school. Our boy freaks out since he absolutely hates cardio, and he starts reminiscing about his luxury days when he'd walk for barely a minute before instantly calling a taxi. Even whenever he had to take a long train ride for an expedition, he'd have the driver come pick him up afterward. But now he's about to spend an entire hour biking just to save a few hundred yen on the train. Hinata snaps him out of his daydream by yelling at him, and then gets right up in his face and shows him with the brutal reality of being broke by telling him the fact that a round-trip ticket to school costs 964 yen, and once she adds up the weekly, monthly, and 6-month passes, the total comes out to a soul-crushing 43,960 yen. So can he actually afford all that? Kanguji understands that his bank account is hanging on by a single thread. When she sits on the bike, Kanguji looks at her and suddenly finds some fresh, world-changing motivation for himself. They start biking, and she leads the way with 2 massive airbags, and since our boy is right behind her, this gives him so much motivation to keep pedaling and follow those juicy assets in front of him. However, it's a little difficult for him to bike with a stiff stick between his legs. She tells him with a cheerful face to keep doing his best, and Kanguji realizes that she's cute. Our boy catches up to her, and Hinata casually drops the absolute nightmare that from here on out, it's nothing but uphill, instantly sending our boy into cardiac arrest. She starts laughing at him, and he's panting loudly while thinking that someone needs to wake him up from this nightmare. After our boy puts in all that hard work, the actual author straight up deletes the entire school scene. And by the time they arrive home, Kanguji's knees are wobbling after all that, and he realizes that saving money is a tough job. Hinata then invites him into the apartment, but she lets him know that she'll still be going back home at night, so her parents don't think they're upstairs filming the world's cheapest low-budget honeymoon special every evening. She gets close to him to make sure he's paying attention, and Kanguji instantly starts panicking. But he doesn't want her getting that close to him, since he didn't shower yesterday. But Hinata thinks he's getting annoyed with her because she keeps talking about saving money. Kanguji says that isn't the case, but Hinata says she'll shake the answer out of him no matter what, and like a classic rom-com manga, they trip, and Hinata ends up falling right on top of him. Later, they get back to the apartment, and Kanguji finally gets to take a shower. He ends up using Hinata's shower, and more importantly, he's using it right after her. Hinata comes over to leave the towel in front of the door and reminds him not to leave the shower running for too long. He opens the door, grabs the towel, and starts using it, only to realize that it's kinda damp, and it even smells like Hinata. He then comes to the realization that Hinata must have used this towel wrapped around her goddess-tier assets before lending it to him. So our boy starts imagining Hinata wiping his back with it, and his soul nearly starts ascending to the heavens like he just witnessed the face of God. But personally, if that were me, I'd be holding that towel over my head like a sacred artifact, and squeezing every last drop straight into my throat. Hinata comes into the bathroom after hearing him scream and confirms that it's her towel, and she teases him, assuming he had some unholy thoughts about her towel and calls him a virgin cardholder. Hinata explains that she just comes to pick up the earring she left behind and heads out from there. Kanguji doesn't realize that Hinata is chill like that since she just lets a guy use her towel so casually. But after leaving the bathroom, Hinata starts blushing like crazy. The next morning, Kanguji finally levels up and unlocks hot water in his apartment. Hinata sees this and realizes that she doesn't need to lend him her shower anymore. They quickly get downstairs to head off to school, and Kanguji gets super demotivated after seeing those bikes. These bikes to Kanguji are like grass to League of Legends players. However, a flash of bright, motivating light once again shines right in front of him, almost blinding our boy like it's a damn flashbang. Kanguji and Hinata are having a heated argument, and it all started an hour ago. Hinata is going live on some social media platform and having a quick just chatting session with her followers. Hinata starts showing off her products that are hard to get. Kanguji starts getting pissed because she's hella loud, and he realizes that there are way too many goddamn simps in the world, which is exactly why someone as good-looking as Hinata is insanely popular. But he ain't complaining since he's getting to live with such a hot girl. Kanguji then puts on a song and starts singing his heart out like me in the shower, but Hinata quickly busts down the door and tells him to shove a sock in his mouth before her followers hear him and start thinking it's her boyfriend. And more importantly, her followers' ears might start bleeding if they were to hear him sing. Kanguji doesn't let this slide and takes it personally. So that's why they had an argument, and Hinata says she's going back home. At school, Kanguji can't stop glancing over at Hinata while she laughs and chats with her NPC squad like nothing ever happened. However, he feels like the distance between them has grown since they went to school without speaking a word in the morning. Meanwhile, Hinata's friends ask why she suddenly ended her live stream midway through yesterday, and she replies that she had a fight with her dad. Her friends then ask if the two of them made up. After hearing them talk about making up, something suddenly snaps inside our boy's tiny little brain, and he starts planning to make up with her, but he wonders if she'll still be the same even if they make up. He tries to convince himself that he doesn't need Hinata. However, when he gets home, he decides to cook up some Gordon Ramsay-level meal, since he researched online that good food might improve the relationship between two people. He puts on his chef's hat and starts cooking, and it looks amazing. He finishes cooking and takes a quick taste. Then Hinata comes to his front door while questioning herself about how she should apologize to Kanguji. She opens the door and sees Kanguji lying on the ground. Our boy realizes that he's better at eating meals and turning them into premium golden poop than actually making one. Hinata wonders what he's doing, and he reveals that he wants to apologize to her. Her face lights up after hearing this, and she starts laughing. She then apologizes and suggests that they both try not to be so loud since they live together. Hinata picks up the carrot top and tells him not to throw these things away since, if he plants them, they can grow into vegetables again. Basically an infinite free food glitch. She reaches out her hand and asks him to keep cooking with her. She ties her hair up and wraps herself around Kanguji while showing him how to hold a knife properly. They finish making their meal and sit down to eat. After taking a bite, Kanguji's third eye opens up, and he warps into the fourth dimension and transcends into a higher life form because the food is just that good. Hinata starts blushing since no one has ever praised her that much, not even her own family. And because Kanguji compliments her cooking, she wants to cook for him every single day. Our boy gets shocked and tells her that she really doesn't need to. She smiles at him, and the two of them have finally made up with each other. Hinata then says goodbye and goes back to the house. Kanguji has now started working part-time with Hinata at a restaurant. However, customer service is his biggest fear. Our boy starts sweating buckets, since he doesn't want to deal with lovey-dovey couples who act so disgustingly sweet that they make lonely dudes scroll through dating apps at 2 a.m. And he also doesn't want to deal with Andrew Tate wannabes in leather vests who look like they run a meth lab out of some shady alley. Hinata then gives him the perfect motivation he needs to push through. She bumps into him with her ginormous mega milk blasters, blasting him with overwhelming levels of confidence that make him work hard and get hard. Kanguji walks past a table and sees an ungodly amount of Konami merch, enough to make you think this customer is planning to open a whole pop-up shop. He strikes up a conversation with the customer and asks him when Konami is going to launch her holy bathwater, but Hinata quickly steps in to stop him. It's their break time, and it turns out the boss isn't very happy with how friendly Kanguji was toward the customer, but Hinata tells him to forget about it and let's eat. Kanguji looks at the menu and says that this place is super cheap, but Hinata says, "Hell nah, fam. What are you talking about cheap for? Do I need to remind you about your dad's NFT incident?" Kanguji gets shocked and asks, "Don't you always eat here when you're working?" She says yes, but it's because she gets the employee meal discount. Kanguji then realizes that this is his first time having lunch with a girl, but we all know this guy is lying because this is probably his first time having lunch with anybody in general. He starts sweating, since from the outside it looks exactly like they're on a date, and their coworker serves them their food and teasingly asks if they're dating. Hinata blushes and asks how she knew. Then she says, "Just kidding," but she says that they are living together, so it does give off that kind of vibe. Hinata starts talking about random stuff, and our boy is struggling to come up with things to say to her, and suddenly she asks if he has a girlfriend. Kanguji tries playing it cool and acts all mysterious by saying he can't talk about that, because that's classified information, but he ain't fooling anybody, because even a newborn would know he doesn't have a girlfriend. However, Hinata keeps digging deeper into the topic and floods his brain with question after question. And in the end, our boy folds and reveals that he's mega single, and she can ask his right hand for proof. Hinata then reveals that she's also never been in a relationship and explains that she's never felt that spark with anyone before. She then looks at Kanguji and starts blushing. Suddenly, she tells him that there's something she hasn't told him about. Kanguji starts blushing, thinking today's his lucky day. But she reveals that there's also a family discount coupon. Kanguji has never felt more let down in his life, and he yells at her and asks why she's blushing so hard over saving money. They finish their job, and on the way home, Hinata asks how much the manager paid him today. He opens up the envelope and it's 4,000 yen, which is around $25. Hinata gets super excited about this. Meanwhile, Kanguji falls into despair since he thought he was going to get paid with 5 Lamborghini, 2 private jets, and a $100 million mega mansion for working so hard at a restaurant. Then, a note slips out of the envelope, and it reads, "Take it easy with the flirting," by their manager. The two start blushing, and Hinata says he probably meant it as a joke. We then see Hinata wearing a dress, and one-hand arc is now taking over this part. But wait a minute. She's actually going through an entire fashion show and trying on a whole variety of clothes. She's trying them on and deciding which ones she should sell and which ones she should keep. In the end, she ends up with a huge pile of clothes to sell, and she's pretty happy about that. So she heads into Kanguji's room to ask if he has anything he wants to sell. But Kanguji is completely flooded with tears. He explains that Konami's first live concert always makes him cry. Hinata introduces him to an app they can use to sell things, so she asks if there's anything he wants to sell. Kanguji gets a box full of stuff and wonders if anyone is even going to buy these. But Hinata tells him not to worry, since when she was in her prime, she would go to the beach and collect pieces of stones and other kinds of scraps and sell them on this app, which made her around 1,200 yen, which is $6. She suggests he sell things that look useless, but it turns out the useless ones cost the most, and our boy pulls out his premium trash collection that his dad gave him, which is worth a straight 100,000 yen. And the moment she hears that, tears start flooding her eyes, since he has insanely expensive stuff just sitting around ready to sell. They start taking pictures of their products, and for the description, Hinata tells him to just be honest. So she writes down the NFT incident, and honestly, it sounds more like a GoFundMe description. Then they decide on the price for the items. Kanguji says he should sell it for 50,000 yen since the original price was 100,000. But Hinata says no can do since the item looks kinda old, so she says 20,000 yen would do. Kanguji gets sad, but Hinata tells him not to worry because it's definitely going to go lower than that. Because in the business they're in, cheap things rule over everything. They hit post, and while waiting, Hinata runs off to grab the things she wants to sell too. Kanguji looks at her from behind, and he starts acting up, because, oh God, we're going to have to call one-hand arc back for this one. He asks if her back is supposed to be showing like that. She asks if it's weird because when she saw it online, she thought it was really cute. But after trying it on, it wasn't all that great. And since he thinks the same, she's going to take it off. She then changes into various kinds of clothes while asking for Kanguji's opinion on each one. And oh man, we gotta stay strong here, guys. However, this is also really hard for Kanguji since his brain has completely lost all blood circulation, mostly because every drop of it has deployed straight into his pants. Hinata gets into the last outfit and asks for his opinion, but she realizes it's a bit tight since the clothes can't handle how stacked her assets are. She starts blushing and says she's going to sell this one too. However, Kanguji says this one is his favorite because it isn't as revealing as her other clothes. She gets surprised hearing this and then says she's going to keep this one. Suddenly, Kanguji's phone gets a notification and it turns out someone wants to buy the cat. However, they're asking for it at 15,000. But Hinata says if you do some simple math here, 15,000 is more than zero, so he should go for it. They made the sale, but our boy feels like he could have gotten more. However, Hinata tells him that's enough for a couple of concert tickets, and he could even buy a bunch of CDs with that much. She then grabs his hand and tells him to appreciate this moment. Our boy agrees, and she jumps around in excitement, and maybe she gets a little too excited since her clothes suddenly rip apart, revealing some nice cheetah patterns underneath. She blushes and yells at him not to look at her, and she tells him that if he doesn't forget what he saw today, she's taking all his earnings. Kanguji is sleeping, and he's suddenly woken up by Hinata sitting on top of him. She starts blushing even harder and asks him to please put it in. Our boy quickly gets out of that ungodly situation and runs off. But Hinata says she can do it for him so he can start, and it turns out what she means is for him to put his information into an app where he can collect points and turn them into discount coupons. Now this app just gives me flashbacks to the dark days when I used to look up how to hack gems in Clash of Clans, and they would tell me to download a bunch of apps to gain points and trade them for gems. But I'm pretty sure the only thing I was trading was my private information for some viruses, and plus a spiritual reminder that free gems only exist in the same universe as honest politicians. Kanguji says he doesn't trust these kinds of apps, but she gets close to his ear and tells him to put it in. However, Kanguji is as stiff as a boulder, both the one below and his entire body, since he isn't shaken by this. But Hinata says then she'll make him do it, and with the size difference, our boy is absolutely not winning this. In the end, Kanguji got the app. Then he receives a message from Hinata, and she explains how the app works. Now there's a bunch of texts here, which can basically be summarized as, "It should have been me, not him. When will this ever happen to me?" She then tells him that the friend referral bonus is really good since he gets 500 points when a friend registers with his link or something like that. However, his inner demon voice suggests, "You need this, so just use your friends for profit like every OnlyFans whore farm simps." But his angelic inner voice folds both of them by reminding him that he doesn't have any friends anyway. But suddenly, Kanguji takes his demon voice's side since there's more Konami merch he wants to buy. Now the problem is, he needs friends to complete this task. Now that's like asking ex-users to use their brains, but he starts approaching random people and asking them to register on the app, only to get rejected again and again, like a desperate salesman fighting for his last paycheck. But our boy refuses to back down and keeps pushing forward until he finally runs into the two girls who are friends with Hinata. Hinata sees this and notices her friends laughing at Kanguji. They then bring Hinata into the conversation and continue laughing at Kanguji for trying to save money. Hell yeah, boo! Imagine trying to save money. That's probably the most ridiculous thing I've heard in my entire life. Hinata says it's fine though because it helps you manage your money better. But her friends call it loser behavior because no smart human being on planet Earth would ever want to save money. Kanguji sits there in pain since no one actually joined. Then Hinata walks up to him and sits beside him. She apologizes for dragging him into all this since he doesn't really like this saving thing anyway. Kanguji tells her to stop yapping and quickly get to the point. She then asks if she's cute. Kanguji says yeah, and she explains that since she's cute and popular, she has to hide her frugal self. And she realizes that her frugal self isn't very cute, and she says it's kinda complicated. However, Kanguji tells her there's nothing wrong with that, and reveals that before, he hated popular girls like her. But after getting to know the real her, that's what makes him think she's cute. She starts blushing, and Kanguji yells that it's no big deal. She laughs and suggests they continue doing their best to save up their points. Kanguji calls her a frugal nut, and Hinata says she isn't stingy about everything though. For someone she likes, she's not stingy about her feelings for them. And Hinata smiles at him. She then grabs his hand and drags him over to her friends. And somehow, some way, they're suddenly all friends now, and they even convince them to register for the app. The next day, someone rings the doorbell at Kanguji's place. He opens the door and it's a girl standing in front of him. She says she's here for him since they're going to get married. Our boy starts panicking because the girl is abducting him into the car. And he screams for help like he's the main character in the Epstein Files sequel nobody asked for.